Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. It's Friday, so we have a Khyber Shards answers for you, and we are joined by Eric. Hey, buddy.
Hello.
So we have a few questions, but I wanted to ask something beforehand, because you've gotten to start a new home game since then, and you've been talking about it a little bit on the Pantheon. And I wanted to know, since we talked about this a while back when the playtest material started to come out, are you taking any of the playtest material we talked about and using it in your home game?
Exhaustion. The new exhaustion rules are far superior than the actual exhaustion rules, in my opinion. So that was because there's also a homebrew rule that I like, where spellcasters, if they're all out of spell slots, can still cast spells, but for every level the spell is, you take that many levels of exhaustion. And I like the new exhaustion system for that function better, because it's still high cost, but it's not, now you can't move because you wanted to cast a 4th level spell. So yeah, that's the one rule that I have taken from it.
Yeah, that seems to be the one I'm hearing everybody go like, yep, this is the thing. We're swapping.
This is better.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a good change. We're starting up you and I are starting up a new campaign with our patrons, and I think we're probably going to go with that exhaustion rule as well, because, as you say, it is superior.
Yep.
Cool.
And I mean, I've always run nat 20s succeed on skill checks and
me too.
Throws. So yeah, they copied my rules for that.
They're just catching up with the fans on that one.
So,
very cool. Okay, so we have some questions, most of which we can answer. The first one of which we cannot. Laura says, so what was Demise doing during the fight in the Red Ring? Obviously, she was being a law-abiding patron of the gladiatorial arts.
Insert Ron Burgundy, I don't believe you.
Yeah. No, why would you think an agent of the Emerald Claw was up to anything nefarious on that occasion?
Was involved in the terrorist act on the city.
Emerald Claw attacked the Red Ring in the middle of the fight. I just jumping to conclusions much, Laura? Come on. Anyway, more pertinently, Laura asks, okay, so Laura asked this last time you were on, and I just totally missed it as I was scrolling through. During the conversation with Arlo, way back when we got back and you were talking to Arlo about time travel, Ari had asked how far back a Sphinx's time travel could go. And Laura wanted to know, was Ari wondering about doing something for his parents?
See, I think you should cut this and we just skip that question again and just let
see how often they'll put it back in
they'll continue to ask. No, I mean, it's like, yes, that was one of the top things that came into Ari's mind was, my parents died. Could I go back and prevent that from happening? But also, Ari hasn't lived a great life. Like, his pre-Blackwheel days was much more fortunate than the rest of the party. But since Blackwheel, he's had a pretty rough go of it. And so, there's a lot of things that, like, if Arlo were to say, oh, well, yes, you can't quite go back so far as your parents, but you could go back this far. There's a list of things that Ari'd be like, oh, great. Okay.
Let's go fix it.
We can go, we can go do some quality of life improvements. But yes, that was, I guess, the furthest back. Like, that's like the top thing of, like, if Arlo were to come back and say, with the right power, Sphinx could send you back any number of years, then that would be kind of the point one that Ari would want to go try to resolve, is saving his parents' lives.
Yeah, but then we have to recast Ari as Aston Kutcher and that whole thing. So there's a timely reference there to the butterfly effect. What year would that be? Like 2002,
2004,
4? Okay,
2003. Yeah, I remember watching it in my dorm freshman year.
Okay.
Like right after
So-
I got to college. So that would have been 04.
there you go.
A movie that I thought was pretty good at the time, and then I watched it a decade later and was like, oh boy, I was wrong. Oh,
Emily asks, if Kara were attending a masquerade ball, what type of outfit would she choose? And let's assume she gets an unlimited budget for her outfit, but she can't use the budget for anything other than looking nice for the masquerade.
yes. Way to get ahead of the whole, well, I'll just take the money and go do something else. So I thought about this for a while, and there are two very good answers. If Kara were attending the masquerade ball on the mission, like she was a part of the team, then she would endeavor to try and, do something that is extravagant in its lack of notoriety. Like she would strive to do something to where she could stand in a corner and not be noticed. Now, if she was just going because she had to go to a masquerade ball, then she would spend a couple days figuring out what Nea would be wearing as like the host of the party, and then get an identical outfit.
That's awesome.
Because that would be funny to her. So
That would be funny. Oh man, that's
and then do the whole, oh my goodness, whoa,
what are the odds?
great minds. Yeah. I too came across dragon hawk feathers out of nowhere.
It's crazy. Just crazy. Mia inquires, can you talk about the bard versus not bard aspect of Ari? As someone newer to D&D, I'd love to understand the situation better. So yeah, this came up in our watch party, and I had commented that I had early on frequently forgotten that you were not playing a bard because Ari's personality and accoutrement is so classically bard, even though his mechanics are obviously not at all.
Yeah, so yeah, for people that are new to D&D, there is kind of this iconically bardish stereotype of the kind of blowhard, over-the-top caricature of an adventurer who plays frequently a lute, and is also kind of a horn dog a lot of times.
If you've seen the trailer, if you've seen the trailer for the new Dungeons and Dragons movie, just watch Chris Pine all throughout that, and that's the bard stereotype.
Yeah. And so that, from a personality and character trope standpoint, is kind of the iconic D&D bard, which I did lean very heavily into with Ari. But mechanically, Ari is a warlock / sorcerer. I wanted to create a character that was very worldly, that could justify Eric the player knowing a fair bit about Eberron, because I knew that I was the one player in the group that would have that knowledge just top of mind. So I wanted to justify that. And as I kind of went down that rabbit hole, it's like, it makes sense if you're like traveling all over the place. Being an entertainer is like, I mean, if you look at the background, like you get room and board for free if you're willing to perform, which would, for traveling nomads, be the most useful thing in the world. So yeah, that just made sense to me. And then, I landed in a cliche, which is fine because Ari's nuanced. He's grown, he's developed. But yeah, Ari is a very bardy, not bard. So
did you consider playing a bard when you were creating the character? Was that on the table?
I considered the multi-class into bard. With either College of Glamour seemed to fit Ari's deal very well. Briefly joked with you that I was going to take College of Eloquence, and you pushed back, like, if you take a subclass that you yourself have defined as broken. So I backed off on that, because then Ari could just like take an 18 on every charisma check that he's making right now. So yeah, I had considered bard pretty heavily, but I wanted to lean more into the telepathy, telekinesis, that kind of thing that I was growing with Ari's mark. And so the sorcerer the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer made more sense. But yeah, I did consider a bard pretty heavily.
Yeah. Emily asks, did Ari ever give Arlo that interview being forgotten and remembered?
If we've had time, probably. I feel like since the whole thing with the Forgotten Prince happened, we've been moving at a decent clip, but I might be wrong. I might be misremembering a little bit of downtime that we've had. But like, I guess that's a question for Philip. Would Arlo have like reminded Ari? Because Ari's not going to like push the subject, but it seemed like something Arlo was interested in.
Yeah, Arlo definitely would. It would be a matter of to what degree would Ari be comfortable with having an academic like write up his experience with the Fae for academic purposes?
Yeah. And as somebody who up to very recently had, been self-recording every moment of his life for the hope that somebody would maybe remember him. And that went so well when the journal was in the party's hands. But yeah, Ari would have no reservations about that because he had lived most of his life thinking nobody will ever remember me.
Right.
So this is kind of nice. So.
Yeah. That would be... Now I'm trying to think, what would the Forgotten Prince think of that? Like, what would his angle be on having this written up and Ari / Arlo / the Prince acquiring some sort of notoriety from this? That'd be interesting to think on. Nathan asks, has Ari
would be telling Arlo the whole time, you have to treasure this interview. You have to treasure this research. Like, have it top of mind, care about it so much, or else he's going to take it.
Nathan asks, has Ari run into anyone yet whom he's decided not to make remember him? And I guess broader question, since we haven't seen it happen in game, are there particular people that you can think of, or categories of people that Ari would specifically choose not to, as opposed to just not bothering?
It's one of those things to where a lot of the people that Ari would have had like a singular interaction with that he remembers, he probably wouldn't bother, because who benefits in that other than Ari getting a sense of like, yeah, you remember that one time that we hung out. So like what we had talked about, like the string of first dates that it's hard to get a second one because nobody remembered the first one. Like, he probably runs into those people fairly frequently, and it's not really worth it. And then, before the campaign, Ari stole from people pretty frequently. Shady merchants that were trying to sell people's possessions back from the Mournland. So certainly he would have had some Aladdin-esque riffraff street rat interactions with some people that he is not eager to have remember him. But other than that, yeah, those would be the two categories of people that Ari wouldn't have remember him. I guess we'll see once, the bigger players that have been out of the city, like Tommel, would not remember Ari. And we'll see how that interaction goes if Ari decides to unlock Tommel's memories of him, or if Ari just wants to be this random new guy. But so the relationship between the Forgotten Prince's curse and like the actual way that human memories work is very interesting to me, as I saw Nathan's question and thought about it for since he posted it today. Because, it would be very easy for Ari, like somebody that Ari went on a date with, to walk up and be like, yeah, we went on a date. Like, we went here and did this and this and this. And, the way our brains work, even somebody that that has no memory of that will eventually convince themselves that it's true. Like, there was an experiment that was done with adults where they like had photoshopped and then printed out like old pictures of them at Disney World when they were like 4. And like got actual images of them as a 4-year-old and stuff like that. And like, we're showing them a photo album of actual pictures of them, but slipped these into them. And then would ask them afterwards, so tell us about the trip to Disney World. And these people would start talking about the trip to Disney World that they never went on.
Wow.
But because it's in the context of these actual memories, it's like, well, this can't not be true. And I was 4.
Right.
So maybe I have a vague recollection of, and you convince yourself that, yeah, this happened. So I would be interested to see if Ari, like through talking to people, could jog their memory without doing the whole poem thing. Even if it's not actually unlocking their memories. So anyway, thank you, Nathan, for unlocking that weird line of thought that I had.
Wait, that's a really strange one and very interesting. Cool. Huh.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, that is all of our questions. So it's going to be a brief one today. Before we go, I do want to remind you that we're still doing our subscription drive, and we'll be giving away a handmade leather dice bag from Lazy Fox Creates, which will appear there. We'll say there. And you can find a link to their store in our description, along with all of our social media, and the Patreon for the Geek Pantheon, and the Discord, and merch store, and all the things. So be sure to check them out. Subscribe to be first to unlock that giveaway and do the drawing as we did before. And thank you all very much for the questions, for watching, and new episodes of Khyber Shards will drop every Monday. New Khyber Shards answers every Friday. And until next time, thanks for rolling with us.